I want to show you Roy Blunt. Somebody turning themselves into pretzels to support Donald Trump, to lie about progressives, and to move on. Let's go ahead and get busy. Let me set it up right so I don't get the wrong channels. This one I had to put together. Let me set it up a bit. Roy Blunt is a seasoned politician, a seasoned senator. One would think that he should not fear Donald Trump. One would think that he could actually come out with statements that promote republicanism and at the time protect democracy by taking on what the host has told them about Donald Trump. Check it out, then we'll take it on the other side.
The insurrection took place on November 3rd, Election Day. January 6th was the protest. Was Election Day an insurrection?
You know, I think the election was what it was. There's a process you go through that determines whether or not the early reports were the right reports, and we went through that process. And I'm of the view that the best thing that President Trump could do to help us win majorities in 2022 is talk about the future, and he can be an important part of this 22 effort. But I think better off to talk about the future than to focus on the past in every election. Every election should be about the future, and I think that's what this next one's going to be about.
Well, he still this week was making these false election claims. On Thursday, Arizona should decertify their fake election results immediately. Also Thursday, the Biden administration, are only really good at two things: rigging elections and misinformation. So he's still talking about the past, and a lot of Republican leaders in the House, other members of the Senate, are standing with him on this. Doesn't the party have to disavow the challenge to the election in order to, go forward?
You know, I think President Biden and the Democrats are giving us plenty of things to talk about. We don't need to keep focusing on
But the Republicans are. Republicans keep talking about the past.
Well, I'm not.
And
I don't think many Republicans in the Senate are. I think we're talking about bad tax policies, bad environmental policies, bad national takeover of the election process. There are plenty of things for us to talk about, and I think we're talking about them. I'm there every day, and I hear Republicans concerned, as they should be, about the process that the Democrats are going through.
But they're also denying the reality of January 6th. Republicans refusing the commission, not joining the House Select Committee. Steve Bannon, only 9 Republican House votes to punish him for violating a House subpoena.
Well, I think a lot of this discussion is obviously driven by the media, just like this is here today. We could be talking about Senate rules. We could be talking about tax policy.
Well, if Republicans were accepting the reality,
policies.
It's not the media that's going against the reality of what happened on January 6th. It was the worst attack on our government, on our democracy since the Civil War.
Oh, I agree with that. And in fact, on January the 20th, I was at the podium at the Capitol chairing the inauguration, and that peaceful transition of power that we saw that day is one of the most important things we do. And I was able to chair the inauguration 4 years earlier, and 4 years later, it was the same important message we sent to the world, and I think we effectively did that.
Well, to that point, if the former president keeps denying the reality of the election and of Joe Biden being the president, should that disqualify him from being a candidate, as he suggests he wants to be in 2024?
Well, there are constitutional provisions about being a candidate, and having opinions that other people may not agree with is not one of those provisions. He can be a candidate if he wants to be, but again, I think what President Trump could do that would be most helpful right now would be a focus on the policies that aren't working. His policies at the border were working, his regulatory policies were working, his tax policies were working. But we see that those policies for Democrats with these narrow majorities they have aren't working. I hope that's where he focuses, but I don't manage his time or his
But if he doesn't
comments.
concede the election, would you support him in 2024?
Well, the election for 2020 is over. I'm focused on 2022, and it's a long time between now and 2024.
He has basically excommunicated Liz Cheney from the party, as has Kevin McCarthy, primarying her and all the rest, just for trying to investigate what really happened. What was the conspiracy behind January 6th? Do you think there's a place in the Republican Party for Liz Cheney?
I think Wyoming voters are going to decide if there's a place for her in the House or not. But it's a broad party with lots of things we ought to be focusing on. I think, again, what defines the future of the Republican Party is how we react to the debate that's going on right now. Democrats are having an incredibly hard time getting where they'd like to be. They've decided that they've got a mandate when there's clearly no mandate. The Senate couldn't possibly be closer. The House majority is the closest Democrats have had in 170 years. And frankly, the only thing that Joe Biden and Donald Trump agreed about in 2020 was they both wanted the election to be all about Donald Trump. There is no mandate. Pretending you do is going to have real consequences in both 22 and 24.
Now, before I go into any basics there, Andrea Mitchell, why didn't you push back when the new phrase that Republicans are using? And I want everybody to be aware of this. This is very important because they know how to use phraseology. The national takeover of elections is what they're calling bills to avoid voter suppression, voter fraud, and having local officials overturn local elections, okay, or national elections. Remember, the bills in Congress are to prevent overthrow of the popular, what people have voted for, to prevent voter fraud, and to prevent all this voter suppression that Republicans are doing in 26 states. By allowing these people to come onto TV and call it nationalizing elections, you do a disservice to Americans because they start to use that nomenclature, they start to use that narrative, and that's the false narrative. The voter bills is a bill that Republicans and Democrats alike have always voted on in order to protect the American voter. Now what they're trying to institute is a form of fascism. Now also, she never pushed back when he said Trump's tax policy worked. Really? All the taxes went to the wealthy and to corporations who used it to buy back stock that made the wealthier as their capital gains increased because of said tax buyback. When it comes to tariffs, guess who paid the tariffs? The poor people. When their semiconductors and all these things went up in prices, who paid it again? It wasn't, the tax came into the coffers, but it was paid for by the American people. No pushback. That's what I'm talking about. But you see how they're attacking, Democrats are fighting among each other. But when these clowns come on TV and they sound like they're sensible. We've allowed it. We've got to stop that. That is why you have a politics done right. To pull the crap out of what these people say. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.